Sometimes the biggest obstacle in your life isn't outside you, it's the voice within, whispering that you can't. What if I told you that voice is lying? Welcome to a journey unlike any other, a journey not over mountains of stone, but over the mountains within. In this space, we don't just talk about healing, we walk through the fire, confront the fear, and rise. Today, we uncover the hidden truths in The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest, a guide for every soul that's ever felt stuck, lost, or broken. If you've ever wondered why you keep sabotaging your own growth, this for you. There comes a time in everyone's life when standing still feels more painful than moving forward. You wake up one morning, and though nothing looks different on the outside, everything inside you feels heavier. You can't explain it, but you know, something must change. Yet what holds you back isn't the world outside. It's the quiet resistance within. We often think the greatest battles are fought against people, circumstances, or fate, but the real war is within us. The enemy is subtle. It wears the face of fear, procrastination, overthinking, even perfectionism. That enemy? It's self-sabotage. You tell yourself you want to be happy. You swear you're ready to change. But then, you scroll for hours, avoid tough conversations, let dreams collect dust, and make excuses wrapped in logic. You wonder why life isn't moving forward. You wonder why nothing feels enough. But the truth? You are the mountain. You are the obstacle. And that is where the transformation begins. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? That the person who wants healing is also the one resisting it. But then, imagine if that's not a weakness. What if that's your power? What if every moment of self-sabotage is a signal from the soul begging you to heal something you've been ignoring for too long? No one talks about how healing begins not with joy, but with grief. You grieve the comfort of old patterns. You grieve the version of yourself that survived through pain. You grieve the illusions of control, perfection, and timelines that never belong to you. And just when you think you've lost everything, you start to see. The real you was buried beneath the fear all along. We live in a world obsessed with building a better life, but few ever teach us how to destroy the inner walls that keep that better life out. We set goals, but then we don't follow through. We dream big, but then we shrink the moment discomfort shows up. We crave love, but then we push it away when it gets too close. And yet that's not failure. That's a pattern, a protective loop formed years ago. Maybe as a child you learned that love was conditional. That failure meant punishment. That being too visible invited criticism. So now, as an adult, your body still remembers. It warns you with anxiety. It screams in silence. It whispers lies like, it's safer to stay small. But what if smallness is a slow death? What if your mountain isn't there to block you, but to show you who you need to become? There's a secret hidden deep within every person stuck in self-sabotage. They are not lazy or broken. They are deeply intelligent. Their survival system works perfectly. Too perfectly. It's just outdated. What once protected them now imprisons them. And that's the shift. When you stop blaming yourself and start listening. When you stop calling yourself weak and start getting curious. Why do I feel resistance right before I succeed? Why do I ruin the relationships that matter most? Why do I numb my feelings every time I get too close to clarity? Most people think they need more discipline, but then they ignore the emotional wounds that drain their willpower. They want motivation, but then they avoid the pain that's stealing their energy. Healing is not just about will. It's about understanding the architecture of your pain. The mountain shows up in many forms. Sometimes it's the voice that says, "You're not ready yet." Sometimes it's the perfectionism that delays progress. Sometimes it's the addiction to chaos because peace feels unfamiliar. The mountain is always there, but not to crush you. It's waiting to be climbed. And here's the hardest truth to swallow. No one is coming to carry you. No one is coming to rescue you from your patterns. The healing journey is a solo climb. You can have support. You can have love. But the real work, it's yours. People talk about letting go like it's easy. But then, why does it hurt so much? Why does releasing a toxic relationship feel like cutting off a limb? Why does choosing growth feel like betrayal? Because growth means leaving behind the version of you that was built for survival, not happiness. There's a point in the mountain where the fog thickens, where every step forward feels like a betrayal of your past. That's where most people turn back. They say, "This is just who I am." They say, I've always been this way. But if you can sit in the discomfort, if you can breathe through the storm, something changes. You begin to realize your wounds are not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. You realize that procrastination isn't laziness, it's fear of not being perfect. That imposter syndrome isn't truth, it's a scar from being undervalued. That anxiety isn't a flaw, it's your body remembering moments of danger. And when you understand yourself this deeply, you stop fighting your emotions. You start working with them. You stop asking, how do I fix myself? And begin asking, what is this pain trying to teach me? The mountain is built from everything you haven't faced. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the shame, the guilt, the words you swallowed, the dreams you buried. But the climb is not about conquering it. It's about integrating it. Making peace with the very parts of yourself you once ran from. Because on the other side of self-sabotage is self-mastery. Not a perfect life, but a powerful one. Not a flawless mind, but a free one. It's terrifying to confront the mountain, but it's more terrifying to live forever at the bottom of it, knowing what you could have become. So you begin the climb, shaky, unsure, but willing. And that, more than anything, is how transformation begins. Not in some grand epiphany, but in the quiet decision to no longer abandon yourself. You were never broken. You were only buried. And now it's time to rise. You think progress will feel like fireworks, like clarity and confidence showing up in clean, Instagram-worthy moments. But the truth? Real progress feels like confusion, like fear, like stumbling forward in the dark with no guarantee of light. You tell yourself you're healing because you're meditating, journaling, drinking more water, but then a single comment from someone and you spiral. The rage, the shame, the tears, they all come rushing back. You wonder, have I really healed at all? But maybe that's the point. Maybe healing isn't about removing the pain. It's about building the strength to hold it without breaking. We are taught to chase happiness like it's a finish line. But then we reach goals and still feel empty. We fall in love and still feel unworthy. We try to stay positive while ignoring the truth inside us that's screaming for attention. Happiness isn't a destination. It's a byproduct of alignment. And alignment only happens when you stop betraying yourself. It begins with one question. What do I actually want? Not what you were told to want. Not what your parents, teachers, society, or ego expects. What you want. But then that question terrifies you, doesn't it? Because if you know what you truly want, then you also have to face the fear of not getting it. Or worse, the fear that you never believed you deserved it in the first place. There's a reason people cling to pain. It's familiar. Pain gives us identity. It gives us something to talk about, to bond over, to feel alive through. So we hold on to it like armor. But then, pain starts costing us. It costs us love, peace, dreams, time, years of our lives, and still we hesitate to let it go. Why? Because letting go of pain also means letting go of the story we've wrapped around it. And if you're not your pain anymore, who are you? That question is both terrifying and sacred. Most people think freedom is about having no limits. But true freedom is the ability to respond, not react. It's waking up and choosing differently. It's breaking the loop. And to do that, you must confront your triggers. Triggers aren't flaws, they're signals. They reveal the parts of you that are still bleeding. Someone criticizes you and you shut down because once criticism meant love was taken away. Someone gets close to you and you pull back because once closeness meant betrayal. These aren't irrational reactions. They're rehearsed defenses, built from a lifetime of needing to stay safe. But you're not that child anymore. You don't need to be ruled by fear. You don't need to sabotage what's good just because good once turned bad. You can rewire the story. You are not your pain. You are the person who survived it. And surviving means you now have the chance to evolve. That's when you learn about emotional intelligence, not the trendy kind, but the real kind. The kind where you pause before reacting. The kind where you sit with the urge to explode and ask, where is this coming from? The kind where you stop blaming others and start observing yourself. This isn't easy. There will be days when your mind becomes a battlefield, when every old pattern screams at you to go back. But then you stay, you breathe, you whisper to yourself, this time we don't run. And with each choice, you chip away at the mountain. Not by force, but by awareness. Self-sabotage doesn't always look like destruction. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, the need to get everything just right before you start. It's the artist who never releases their work, the entrepreneur who rewrites their plan 30 times, the student who won't begin unless they're sure they'll ace it. It's not laziness, it's fear of judgment. It's fear of failing at the thing that matters most. Because if you fail at that, what's left? But then you realize not trying is the only true failure. Because trying means growth. Trying means courage. Trying means you're finally living. So you begin to show up, imperfectly, messily, reluctantly, but consistently. And slowly, your identity shifts. From the one who hides to the one who dares. From the one who avoids to the one who faces. From the one who waits for permission to the one who gives it to themselves. Then one day, you catch yourself laughing without guilt. Standing taller. Saying no without explaining. Resting without shame. Choosing what's right over what's easy. And you realize you're becoming the person your younger self needed. You stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You stop carrying guilt that was never yours to hold. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You start creating a life that feels like peace. Not the fake kind that comes from avoidance, but the real kind. The kind that comes from alignment, purpose, and honesty. Yes, there are still hard days. The climb never truly ends. But you stop fearing the mountain because now you understand it was never there to stop you. It was there to show you how powerful you really are. You think clarity comes first, before the leap, before the change, before the decision. But sometimes clarity only shows up after you've stepped into the unknown. After you've left the comfort zone behind. After you've burned the old script that never truly fit you. You wait for the fear to disappear. But then you realize it won't. Fear doesn't vanish, it adapts. The goal isn't to be fearless. It's to walk forward even when fear is screaming. Most people never reach their potential, not because they lack talent, but because they never learn to move forward with fear instead of waiting to conquer it. There comes a moment in healing when everything gets louder. Your doubts, your memories, your guilt. You thought you were supposed to feel better by now. But then, why does your heart feel heavier than ever? Because healing is remembering. Healing is truth. Healing is light, entering the darkest parts of you and exposing the lies you believed. Lies like, you're not worthy, you're too much, you'll never be enough. You didn't create those lies, but you accepted them. And now your job is to challenge every single one. You begin to realize the mountain isn't a single peak, it's many layers. Your childhood wounds, your inherited beliefs, the generational patterns that shaped you before you even knew who you were. You didn't choose the mountain, but you must climb it. And here's the twist. No one tells you. The higher you go, the lonelier it feels. Because growth separates you. From old identities, from relationships that were built on your past self, from habits that once numbed the pain. You look around and think, why does no one understand me anymore? But then it hits you. You're not meant to be understood by the version of the world that aligned with your brokenness. People will call you distant, cold, selfish. Not because you are, but because you're finally choosing yourself over their comfort. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing people who never had the capacity to love you deeply. You stop editing your truth to fit someone else's illusion. And that's when something unexpected happens. You start to feel free. You begin to understand boundaries are not walls. They're doors. They let the right people in and keep the wrong patterns out. For years, you feared being too much. But now, you understand, your depth is not a burden. It's your gift. You feared being alone. But then, you found peace in your own company. You feared change. But then you realized staying stuck hurts more than evolving. The person you're becoming doesn't crave attention. They crave alignment. They crave mornings that begin in stillness, conversations that nourish the soul, work that reflects purpose, rest that isn't earned but honored. You begin to respect your energy like currency. You don't spend it on gossip, on fixing broken people, or chasing validation. You protect your inner world like it's sacred, because it is. And now you look at your past, not with regret, but with reverence. Every heartbreak was a doorway. Every failure, a redirection. Every delay, a hidden blessing. Still, there are days when the old self whispers, it was easier when we didn't care so much. It tempts you with numbness, with distraction. It says, let's just go back. But you've tasted something deeper now. Not just joy, but peace. Not just love, but self-trust. And you can't go back. You've outgrown the cage. You used to think self-love was about bubble baths and mantras. But now you understand, self-love is brutal. It's discipline. It's saying no. It's choosing growth over comfort. It's being honest when you'd rather escape. It's leaving when staying breaks you. You used to think healing meant never hurting again. But now you know, it means hurting consciously. Letting pain teach you instead of rule you. You've stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what is this revealing within me? This shift changes everything. You stop taking things so personally. You stop controlling outcomes. You stop needing certainty. And somehow, in that surrender, life becomes more beautiful. You find yourself laughing during the mess, crying without shame, dancing without thinking, loving without conditions. You meet a version of yourself you've never seen before. Fierce, grounded, soft but not weak, clear but not rigid. You meet the version of you who doesn't just survive, but thrives. And you realize this is what the mountain was for. There comes a point in your journey when healing becomes less about recovery and more about reinvention. You're no longer trying to return to who you were, because now you know you were never meant to go back. You thought the mountain was just about survival, but then you realize it's about discovery of what you've buried, of what you're capable of who you were before the world told you who to be. It's easy to mistake discomfort for danger. You feel the unease and you pull back. You overthink, you delay, you shrink. But that feeling? It's not a warning, it's an invitation. Growth always starts where comfort ends. You begin to notice your patterns, not just what you do, but why you do it. Why you attract the same kind of people. Why you panic when things go right. Why silence makes you uneasy. And that's when you meet your shadow. The shadow is everything you've rejected about yourself. Your rage, your desire, your jealousy, your pride. You pushed it all down to be accepted, to be loved, to be good. But then it leaks out anyway. In passive aggression, in self-sabotage, in addiction, in overachievement. The more you hide it, the louder it becomes. But if you turn toward it, if you stop running, you find that your shadow is not your enemy. It's your compass. Because the things you repress often hold your greatest strengths. Your anger? It reveals your boundaries. Your envy? It shows you what you desire. Your fear? It guards your next breakthrough. You no longer shame yourself for feeling deeply. You no longer silence your intuition just to avoid conflict. You begin to trust yourself, even when others don't understand. That's when you stop asking for permission to be whole. You stop living in half-truths, half-love, half-versions of yourself. You start speaking the truth, even if your voice shakes. You start saying no without guilt. You start choosing what feels right over what looks right. People may leave. Some won't like the new you. But then you realize they only love the version of you that kept them comfortable. That version is gone. You've spent years molding yourself into what others needed. But what about what you need? This is the part of the climb no one sees. The internal earthquake, the quiet rebellion, the breaking of emotional contracts you never signed but still lived by. You thought your life was falling apart. But then you understand it's falling into place. Because now you're not building a life from wounds. You're building it from wisdom. You begin to align your external world with your internal truth. Your relationships change. Your career path shifts. Your dreams feel clearer. You no longer chase what glitters. You seek what grounds you. You stop needing to prove yourself, to outperform, to earn rest, to explain your worth. You simply are. And that is enough. This isn't arrogance. This is wholeness. It's the calm that comes from knowing who you are, even if no one else claps for it. And still, the climb continues. Because healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll glow, some days you'll crawl. But even in your lowest moments, you no longer abandon yourself. You no longer betray your needs just to keep the peace. You no longer silence your desires just to be accepted. You no longer dilute your truth to be digestible. You've learned that authenticity is expensive, but pretending costs more. You realize you've spent years hustling for things you didn't even want. Approval, status, applause. But now, You crave simplicity, depth, quiet joy. You start tending to your soul like a sacred garden. You remove what doesn't serve. You water what's been ignored. You honor the seasons of stillness as much as the bloom. And then it happens. You wake up one day, and peace is no longer a stranger. It's a steady rhythm, not loud, not dramatic, just present. You no longer fear the mountain, you respect it. Because every jagged edge, every moment of doubt, every fall taught you how to rise. And now you know you weren't climbing to reach the top. You were climbing to become unshakable. There's a silence you reach after the storm, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels earned. After the grief, after the truth, after the long climb, there is a stillness. And in that stillness, you finally hear yourself. You once believed becoming strong meant becoming hard. But then, you learned that real strength is softness without fear. It's the ability to feel deeply without being destroyed by it. It's crying without shame, holding space for others without losing yourself, showing up fully without armor. For so long, you thought the goal was to avoid pain. But the goal was never to be untouched. It was to be unbroken despite being touched. You were meant to experience life fully, not just the joy, but the ache. Not just the light, but the shadow. And from that, you build something extraordinary, resilience. You stop waiting to be ready. Because now you see that readiness is a myth. Life won't pause while you collect courage. The door only opens when you knock. The voice only appears when you speak. The path only reveals when you walk. You stop outsourcing your power. You don't ask the world to give you peace. You become peace. You don't chase love. You embody it. You don't beg for opportunity. You create it. And still, you remember the mountain. Not with resentment, but with reverence. It broke you, yes, but only the parts that were never really you. What was left? The gold beneath the rubble. The voice that speaks when you're finally quiet. The you that was always waiting behind the noise. You begin to hold paradox in both hands. You can be soft and still fierce, grieving and still growing, in love and still healing, lost and still moving forward. Broken once, but never beyond repair. You no longer fear falling apart because you trust your ability to rebuild. You forgive yourself, not just for the mistakes, but for the years you spent surviving, for the days you had to numb, the relationships you clung to, the moments you stayed small. You were doing the best you could with the tools you had. Now, you have better tools. You stop seeing the past as a prison and start using it as a map. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every failure taught you direction. Every ending shaped your beginning. You stop performing, stop proving, stop pleasing. You exist in your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You realize that the people who truly love you will rise to meet you, and those who don't, let them fall away. They were part of a chapter, not the whole story. You learn to sit in silence without needing to fill it, to rest without guilt, to celebrate without minimizing. You become fluent in joy, not as a reward, but as a right. You no longer wait for the storm to pass to feel grateful. You find beauty in the mess, meaning in the detours, light in the cracks. Because now, you are not climbing for validation. You are climbing to remember that you were never broken, only buried. Under fear, under doubt, under what others told you was true. But underneath it all, you remained whole. That's the mountain. It's not there to punish you. It's there to reveal you. And now, you are not who you were. You are the fire starter, the storm walker, the soul who stood in front of the impossible and whispered, "I will not run." You no longer need the world to change for you to feel peace, because you've done the inner excavation. You've built the roots. You've become the mountain itself. Stable, wild, sacred, eternal. And finally, you realize you were never climbing to escape yourself. You were climbing to return to yourself. And you made it. If this journey touched something deep within you, if it reminded you of your strength, your worth, and your power to rise, then stay with me. Hit that subscribe button and let's keep walking this path together. Thank you for giving your time, your presence, and your heart. You are not alone on this climb.